The other big story here is the China tariff story. The president announcing $200 billion in additional tariffs and China retaliating with $60 billion on U.S. goods. The Commerce Secretary had an interesting statement today about how people might feel it or not.
We really went item by item, trying to figure out what would accomplish the punitive purpose on China and yet with the least disruption in the U.S. Because it's spread over thousands and thousands of products, nobody's going to actually notice it at the end of the day.
So, John, there's nothing to see here.
Well, I think there's something to see there for the voters. In terms of politics, I think this is probably a mistake for Republicans in a lot of these Midwestern battlegrounds, a lot of agriculture, some industries that have been hit by these. In terms of the policy, I think the president's gotten away with this so far. Obviously, the economy is still rollicking. Whether these tariffs get to a point where it actually has an overall drag that's felt by people not in specific industries, I think that's a real risk as well.
Maura, I mean, he's making the case that give me time, it's going to change.
Yep, and he said there might be some short-term pain, but in the end, we're going to win. Number one, he's making life more difficult for a lot of Republican candidates in the Midwest because their constituents depend on trade. On the other hand, what's not clear is whether it's going to accomplish its goal. What he wants, he says, in addition to having the trade deficit go down with China, he wants China to change its business model. He wants them to stop stealing intellectual property, stop doing forced technology transfer, and so far we haven't seen any sign of that.
But Molly, when he talks about it, he's passionate about it, and he talked about it on the campaign, and that translates some places.
It does, and this is a long-standing. I mean, our agreements with China have allowed them to flourish over the last 25 years. They might not be a completely formidable adversary right now, but if they're allowed to continue on this path, they definitely will be. And so something that needs to be done. They do have unfair trade practices. It does cause problems, and so I was surprised actually that the New York Times even today said that China is running out of options here.
All right, panel, thank you. A story we will definitely cover when we come back. A special announcement.